So, welcome everybody. It's another Sunday, and it's time for our Folio Star Foundation presentation that comes from the Yoda Guy movie exhibit here in St. Martin in the Caribbean. You know, we webcast every Sunday about creative techniques and outstanding personalities for our patrons and our supporters and creative inquiring minds everywhere. So today I'm talking to a former colleague from my days on Superman and on Star Wars. While I was making a name for myself back then, Paul Weston was already well established as a stuntman and stunt coordinator. And today we're talking about his life and his work on 8 Bond movies and Superman and Indiana Jones and Star Wars and other famous movies. Those of you who don't know me, I'm Nick Maley. I'm known as the Yoda Guy because of my involvement building Yoda, or being one of the guys who built Yoda for Star Wars. And you know, I'm a creature effects designer from 60-odd movies, and also an artist and more. Creativity and living outside the box is our focus at the Folio Star Foundation, and Paul has certainly done that. Our aim is to encourage youngsters to follow their dreams and oldsters to get out of the chair and pursue that interest before they run out of time and energy to do it. So, enough said. We're gonna start the show. My good friend, Paul Weston, and he's looking very dapper there, I have to say. You know, he's a stunt coordinator, he's an actor, he's a second unit director. He used to be a male model as well, and he writes music. So, you know, I feel he's a Renaissance man, a lot like myself, and I'm going to bring him up onto the screen pretty much right now. And there you are.
Hi, how are you?
I'm good, Paul. I'm good. So you're in England, right?
Yes, yeah, in Hertfordshire.
Yeah, it looks very luxurious there, I have to say. It's we're going to talk about something. When did you start making movies?
Well, I was an engineer. I got fed up with working in a factory with black walls and greasy hands, and it was a weird story. I asked one of the old fellows who was having a cup of tea out of a tin mug. And I said to the old fellow, I said, Eric, how long have you been working here? And he wiped the drip from the end of his nose and he said, 38 years, man and boy. I said, 38 years? Wow. I said, it's a long time. Where'd you live? He said, just around the corner. I said, have you always lived there? He said, oh, no. I said, I used to live around the other corner. I thought, I cannot do that for the rest of my life. And I knew in those days they used to have
There's a lot of people that are like that, you know, that live within this little area because that's where they started. And the sense that those of us who've lived these more adventurous lives, I have people that come in quite often and they say, oh, you're living my dream. And sometimes I want to say to them, that's because you didn't get off your butt and go live yours, right? You know, I don't mean that in an unkind way, but that's typical of what's in my motivational book, where I'm trying to encourage young people to take the courage in both hands and step outside the box. I was fortunate. I was fortunate that, you know, when I was at college, I did, you know, one of those summer jobs between semesters working in a factory. And I found out pretty fast that that definitely wasn't how I wanted to spend my life. Yeah. But you were a male model as well. At what point did that happen? It's a long way from an engineer to a male model, isn't it?
Yes. I didn't know what to do. I had an ache. I had to do something. So I thought, right, in those days, the Evening Standards had 2 pages of situation vacants all over the world, up in Alaska on the pipelines, or down in South Africa. I thought, wherever it is in the world, I'm going to do it. So I opened up the pages, closed my eyes, and pointed down. And my finger alighted on a little box, and it said, "The London School of Charm requires models, Leicester Square." And I thought, well, I can't be a model because ridiculous. But I thought to myself, I promised myself, whatever job it was, I was going to go after until they said no. So I thought, as soon as I phone up and say, "Hello, darling, you want models?" She's going to say no. So that'd be it. So I phoned up and she said, "Come along." And I thought, she hadn't said no. So off I went to the West End, probably 1960, 61. And it was a nice agency, a lot of beautiful girls around and handsome men. I thought, this is not bad. I found out how much they were charging. You know, you got like, I was earning probably £12 a week in a factory, and they were earning £4 to £5 a week an hour modelling.
Yeah.
So I thought, well, I'll stick with this. And I started modelling, and then I started doing walk-ons on television, then extra work, and was sent down to
that led you to the Saint, right?
Yeah.
I mean, England remembers, or anyone of an age remembers Roger Moore from Ivanhoe and the Saint before he ever got to be James Bond or anything else. So how did that come about?
Well, I had an agent, and I was doing small parts on TV, and he said, "Can you go down and understudy Roger Moore?" Because Roger wanted to direct an episode, and he needed somebody to play his part while he looked through the camera. So I did that and played the part with the other actors, and he was so kind and wonderful. And I thought, this is what I want to do for the rest of my life. I want to be in a film studio, and I have been. So yeah, and I got on well, and then went on to the Avengers and all the TV shows that were going on at the time at ABP.
Did you have any difficulty in getting an agent? Because that's usually a kind of a hurdle that often stops people.
The first thing was getting into equity, and it was easy for me because my agent said, "You've got to be in equity." I said, "Well, I don't necessarily want to be in equity. I wasn't bothered." And he said, "Look, you've got to be." So he got me the equity card. But then there's several agents doing different things, like the walk-ons of small parts. And this particular one I got through a friend, and he got me some small parts on Z cars, and then sent me down for the Saints.
Yeah.
So yeah, there was quite a few agencies around at the time. I was fortunate.
Yeah, but I think that one of your strengths has to be, your adaptability, because, when you look at your life and your career, you've kind of made the most of lots of different opportunities rather than put yourself in a box and try to sit there. Again, in my book, I say, if you've got an engineering degree, whatever you do, don't call yourself an engineer, because it restricts you from being a poet too. You want to just build on what you've got rather than the other way around. And I think, it's clear to me from just looking at some of your photos and some of the things that's in your bio that you really, you really grabbed the opportunities and said, "Oh, that looks like fun. Let's go give that a shot too."
Yeah, I mean, I was playing small parts like on the Baron and the Saints, and I thought I've got to learn about this acting bit, but I was never trained. So I went to the Mount View Theatre Club, theatre school, for 3 years on doing a night course, just to learn the business, really.
Right.
Which scary because
we've been talking about that early career, and we haven't really any of this. Stuff. I had to throw that in for those people who are sitting out there saying, "We're talking about action and we're talking about other stuff." I thought this was about stunts. Well, don't worry, guys. There's lots of stunts coming. I'm just trying to show. One of the things that I do with my nonprofit is to try and help people understand that we started out as kids like everybody else. We didn't start out as someone who was necessarily wonderfully connected or someone who had everything at our fingertips. We didn't walk along and just something fell into our laps. We grasped the opportunity and made something happen. In life, you either make something of yourself or you become whatever life turns you into. And you have to decide whether you're going to be a grasper or whether you're going to just sit there and let life beat you around.
Yeah, it depends where you want to be, where you want to go, and you create your own destiny, really. And it's all out there. It's just having the courage to take it on.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, exactly. And so, you know, I see this is you doing a motorcycle jump. Is that right?
Yes, yeah. It went a bit quiet in the early 70s, and there wasn't much work about. So I got involved with a stunt show in Norway. The first one was a tour in Norway, and we were doing high falls and fights and falls. The leader of our local stunt team. It was the Arneberg International Stunt Show, and the subtitle was "We're dying to entertain you."
Yeah, right. But, you talk about things going quiet in the 70s. You know, I got my union ticket to start making movies in 1969, and I'd been trying to get in for 2 years, and you know the makeup guys didn't want any competition, so they didn't want to let anybody into the union, and so I'd taken a job in an office, which was another thing that I knew very quickly I didn't want to do. And in fact, I was the deputy head of the mortgage department for the London Borough of Brent, if you can imagine anything more boring. You know, suddenly I got this job, and there I was in the studio with Charlton Heston, and you know, it was like I was getting paid 4 times as much as I was with the London Borough of Brent, and everything was exciting. And then 4 weeks later, I was unemployed, and there was this big crash in the industry where the US dollar changed against the pound, and all the movies went somewhere else. And so suddenly we were all scratching our heads trying to figure out how we were going to pay the rent.
So but yeah,
that's the nature of business, right?
Yeah, I did that show because there was nothing else around. I did that in 1974 and 75, and I used to get knocked down by a car 4 times a night, 6 days of the week. So you got used to being able to be knocked down by a car. I used to get kicked out at 20 miles an hour.
I mean, you weren't a stuntman at that time, were you?
Yeah.
In movies, you'd already transitioned to being a stunt guy in movies?
Yeah, we started, really, I started probably in 1965, 66, doing the odd stunts. Like on the Saints, I was playing a little part, and I had to fight with Fred Haggerty, who was a stunt guy, and he throws me through a glass cabinet. So I'd started sort of there, but there wasn't any organisation around then. We had to start something, and Bill Sawyer, myself, and a couple of others started a stunt book in 1967, 68 to get people, you know, organised. We had no insurance. You had to sign a blood sheet. If you were going to do a fall and you was on a building about to do it, the accountant or the producer would run forward and say, "Yeah, hold on," as he signed a blood sheet. And that was a piece of paper that you signed away your life. You took total responsibility for anything that happened to you, and if you fell on somebody else, they could sue you. So we had no organisation, no insurance, and even the girls were on half the pay that we got, which was ridiculous. Right. We do stair falls with, you know, trousers and jackets on. They were doing stair falls with, you know, mini skirts and little blouses. Right. So it took a while before we convinced them that we wouldn't accept it anymore, and the girls eventually got the same pay as we did.
Cool. Well, you know, such is the nature of the world, I guess. But you know, you went on to meet you know, a lot of different stars along the way. And being a stunt coordinator, you have to work kind of directly with them. You know, going back here, I can see you here with Sammy Davis Jr. That was I remember the first time I went on a film set was my dad was in Oliver. And Sammy Davis Jr. was making a movie in Shepperton at the time and driving around on a little tiny motorcycle. I remember that. But what were you working with him on here?
Well, no, that was when I was writing music. We'd written a musical in LA, and so I became friends with Sammy for the last sort of 6-7 years of his life. And I used to go up to his house every Wednesday and sometimes Friday. That's him sitting at his bar, and he used to sit behind there and tell stories, and he was a lovely man, really, genuinely genuine man. I loved him. I think he was great. But yeah, I was friends with him for a long time.
But often, I think the people who are the biggest stars are ones that are more down to earth. I think often the people that would give me a hard time were the ones that were new stars, the ones who were still trying to prove themselves. I remember back in '71 working with Katharine Hepburn, who, I'd been 3 years old watching Katharine Hepburn on a black and white TV under my grandmother's dining table. And so she was like, to me, this was like such an icon, and she was such a nice, down-to-earth person. And then you get someone else who's out of a TV show and thinks that the world shines out of parts of their body that we won't go into right now.
Yeah, the biggest have nothing to prove. They've established themselves, like Roger and Sean Connery and Michael Caine. They're so relaxed and they know the business, and they're lovely people.
And another nice guy to work with was Chris Reeve. I mean, Chris was when we did that first movie, he was just such a nice, down to earth guy. I mean, he
was 24 years old when he came to us. He was 6'4". He didn't have any definition on his chest.
No,
he worked hard.
They brought in Dave Prowse, didn't they, to build his muscle up?
Yeah. He worked with Dave for a while, and then he continued on his own. He used to get in before us, and he used to do like an hour in the gym in the morning and an hour at night. And he used to be physically sick. They wanted to put a Batman suit on him.
I know, we made it. We actually made it. Basically, before they made the very first Superman movie, they were really concerned that he wouldn't put on enough muscle. And so the corridor that we were in, his dressing room was just down the hall from the makeup rooms. And so, he'd be doing his weightlifting, but in the meantime, they were scared that he just wouldn't do it. So Graham Freeborn, that I'm going to be talking about later today, sculpted this full, muscle suit for him, with big pectorals and big biceps and all this other stuff. And then as we got closer to filming, they decided that he put on enough that they could get away without it. And so we were standing there. We'd finished making this suit by that time. So we put it on and went to the bar instead.
Yeah, but he worked out well. I mean, he was determined that he was going to do it himself. And I think the first shot was that they filmed on him was in New York, when the burglar sequence, he catches a burglar, and they had to shoot slightly from below to make him look bigger and stronger, more muscles.
Yeah.
But and by 2 and 3, he was like too big. He was like, his neck was quite big.
Okay. Well, I only worked on the Dick Donner stuff for 1 and 2. Before that, I was doing other stuff by the time they got back to Dick Lester, and so none of those other movies were in there. This is another Superman, right?
Superman 3, I think that was. It was Niagara Falls. And I don't know if you know, but they switched Niagara Falls off at night, and they put the water through hydroelectric plants. So I had to make sure that they were safe on the edge of that water, because people die. Just if you go out, there's Bob Harmon just hiding behind a rock there. We put up nets. So when they switched it off at night, I could get there at 6 o'clock in the morning, when the water had gone down about 8 to 10 feet, and clear that area that they're in there, that we're in that. So there was no rocks or lumps or anything that were going to hurt themselves on, and cleared it all out. And then by 8:30, 9 o'clock, the water came up again. So that was it was interesting to go down the rapids. We had
I think the Niagara Falls sequences were wasn't that in 1 and 2? I know we made dummies to fire out of cannons and things for little boys going over Niagara Falls. I'm not sure if that was the same sequence.
Yeah, it was a hell of a sequence. We did some of it at Pine with the closer stuff when she's going down the rapids.
Yeah.
But we had Wendy Leach doubling for Lois Lane, and literally had on a cable going down the white water and just dragging it back into the into the safe side of the river. But
Yeah.
that was a hell of a to do.
I saw this on one of your pages. This was like a blast from the past. I know this won't mean so much for everybody else that's sitting out there, but so many of these people, this has to be from one in the first half of two. But what's kind of interesting here is my old boss Stuart and his wife Kay are right over here in the corner on one side, and I can remember. He didn't like his crew going, being seen in photographs, and you can see crept in on the other side of the photo. but there's so many old friends, here in among this stuff.
It was a great crew, and we were all learning at the time, to make
Right. What is this?
This was on Bear Island, and we was up 4,000 feet up on a frozen lake in British Columbia. And we was living in tents. There was about 10 tents, and there were 21 of us sleeping, being flown in on a Sunday night, and then you worked on the frozen lake until the following Saturday morning, and then you were flown back to the town, which was a 40-minute flight, washed, fed, and sent back again.
Yeah, so people who watch these movies, they have no idea all the nuts and bolts that go on to try and make this stuff work. Tell me here.
That was when we, on Superman 3, Roy Allen was playing a part of a car driver who loses control and goes into where the roadside building works are going on, and his car goes up onto a hydrant, and the car fills up with water. And then Superman flies, and we all try to get him out, we can't get him out, and Superman's going to fly in and save him. So we set up and get it all ready, we think we blocked the roads off, and action, the car crashes in, and it starts filling up with water. And we're running around like lunatics trying to pretend to get him out. A car came through the barriers, pulled up, a little Chinaman got out, rushed across, grabbed one of the shovels and was about to smash the window. We leapt on him. I said, hold on, what are you doing? What are you doing? He said, save him, save him. And I said, so Superman's going to save him. We had to cut it. And so, it was,
that's a great story.
Yeah, and he wanted to smash the window and do the great thing and get the guy out.
Yeah.
But it was a good fun.
So this is Chris son, right?
Yeah. This was on the A stage, I think, at Pinewood. We used to, when we were doing all the flying units, trying to make a man fly, which was quite a thing in those days.
That was another challenge. That was a separate challenge, I think. Yeah.
Everyone tried everything, and it was a little difficult. But everyone had, ideas. This one is where we had to get Non to go up through the building and go through a window and out the other side. So we built the office on the end so he could fall through the window, through the roof, and out.
Yeah, I'm going to show it to everyone. The first thing that we've got here is the shot as it appears in the movie, and then at the end, we show you exactly how that was achieved by literally turning the whole set at an angle, so that a lot of these flying effects are literally, because the stuntman is falling. Falls become a really important part of stunt work. Obviously, not to hurt yourself, but in creating these illusions. So I'm gonna run it again.
Yeah, he goes out of the ground, up through the window, and all those guys have to be wired in. Everything in the office was clamped down, their hair, their ties, the girls' hair had to be pinned up so that it didn't move. And then we turned the whole set on its side, and then George Cooper fell through, and you'll see that all the rubbish, all the debris is following him out through the roof.
Yes, right.
Down.
Because it's falling down, but he did really well, especially at the speed that it runs at, because you don't have time to really look at the guy's movements.
No.
This chap who's up the top here, obviously just look at the angle he has to try and hold himself at. The same with the other people. I think some of these are probably dummies, but they put a couple of live people in there to make it look right.
No, they were all stunt guys and girls, and I had to work out the angle that their wires would be hanging down straight, and then I screwed their shoes to the floor so that they could, while it's being winched into its angle, they could hang upright instead of hanging upside down all the time. And then when we were ready on action, they swung their feet up and put them in their shoes so they were in the right angle to stand.
Yeah, exactly. All for a 10-second shot, you know.
Yeah.
But you know, very worked really effectively. I
Mm.
see also for those folks in Britain and royalists and whatever else, this kind of interesting piece here where you've got Princess Diana hitting Prince Charles over the head with a bottle. You know, that's interesting news.
Yeah, well, the way it happened is that we were doing The Living Daylights. They said to myself, can you put on the show for Princess Di and Prince Charles? So, and we couldn't smash anything up, but I had a breakaway chair and we had some swords. So Simon Crane and myself put on the fight in that particular area. And at the end of the fight, I beat him and he goes out of the door. And then I turn to take a bow to Charles and Diana. And he puts his hand in and hits me over the head with a bottle. And I collapsed on the floor. So that was the end of the show. And then we get presented to Charles and Diane. And he said to me, what are these bottles? How can you do it? So I explained it was a resin bottle. I said, would you like to hit me over the head with one? He said, yes. So I gave him one and he hit me over the head. And he said, could you hit me? And I thought, this could be dodgy. Sometimes they come up a bit heavy, you know. And then she said, Diana said to me, can I hit him? And I thought, geez, if this goes wrong, I'm going to be in trouble. So I sorted out, I had a box of bottles, breakaway bottles. I found a light one. And I said, yes, okay, but we'll do it like a film. So I gave her the bottle and I said, I'll say, turn over and action, and you hit it. She said, okay. So we had the world press there. I said, okay, stand by, roll cameras and action. And she went, oh, I can't. I said, you've got to now. You've got the world press here. Action. And she went, smash. And he turned around and brushed it off and he said, that's got to last you 10 years. I didn't have another 10 years. So,
yeah.
Which was a shame. But they were very nice and she was beautiful. Very lovely.
Yeah. That's a great story, you know.
Mm.
So yeah, we come down. I think this is a bridge too far, isn't it?
Yes, it is. That's myself and Robert Redford. I had to look after him for
I was there too. I was one of the guys doing 400 wounded soldiers every day. Yeah, wandering around in the field with bottles of blood. It was a challenge. But that movie had just about everybody in it. Really, it was a big. It was a huge movie in its time, and it won, I don't know, something like 7 Oscars or something.
Yeah, it was a massive story to tell. I mean, it was quite brave of Joe Levine and Richard Attenborough to try to tell it in the time. You know, there were so many elements that went to make the Operation Market Garden, from the Americans, the Dutch, the German side of it, and the English. It was just a big story. And
and it was a time when we'd gotten away from movies which were all about how the brave Americans and the brave Brits were beating up the rotten Germans, which was when we were kids. Those were the movies that we were seeing. We'd gotten to a point where we're really looking at war from everybody's point of view, and it was a great in-depth movie, I thought, but there were a lot of egos on that movie, because I remember we also had. I remember that we were held up for half a day one time waiting for Robert to get his hair cut. I don't know if you were around that day, but that was an interesting time. But didn't we lose a couple of stuntmen on that movie?
No.
I thought there was something about falling off the bridge.
No, the special effects guys had a car accident.
Yes, we had John Richardson on a month ago. He and his girlfriend had that accident.
No, all the stunts were fine. There was only 4 of us really to do the bulk of it, and we had 50 actors. They were bit part actors that to play the bulk of the action, running around and doing stuff.
But when it comes to Private Army, I think they called it, didn't they?
Yeah,
that's right. They were all front of crowd. They were proper actors, but not big names. And and they were doing all the front of crowd action in all the battle scenes.
They did a great job. Yeah.
Yeah. So
Then we had the
we're moving on to another movie here. You're going to tell me?
Yeah, that's Raiders of the Lost Ark.
Exactly, yeah. And you know, amongst all the movies that you worked on, I have to say that that's one that really stands out.
It was a great movie to work on. We were in the desert. It was 10 hours drive from Tunisia town,
Yeah.
on the edge of Sahara Desert.
But what was that?
No, this was Tozer.
Okay, because we did the same thing on Young Winston. We you know, we flew in. We went to the edge of the Sahara Desert where there was nothing but a hotel and a bunch of sand. And then we got in these cars and drove for an hour at 160 kilometers an hour down these crazy roads to get to a sand dune. And I'm sitting on the sand dune thinking, why is this sand dune any different to any other sand dune? But hey, that's the nature of the business. And here we've got you in a action sequence, right?
Harrison punching me out.
Yeah, I think we've actually got that right here. Yeah, you know, well, it gave you a lot of opportunities to do other things, and Spielberg has a great reputation as being one of those guys who gets on really well with his crew, a bit like Dick Donner was.
Yes, yeah. We said we were in that another sequence when Marion gets in the plane and Indy tries to get her out. She fires at a lot of German soldiers coming up in trucks. And we had to get shot, and I had to fall over the front of the truck, hit the bonnet, and fall on the floor. And Spielberg said to Kit West, "What do you put in these bullet hits? You can hardly see them." He said, "Well, I put blood capsules on there and fuller's earth." He said, "Well, it's too white. Can you put some red in it?" So he said, "Yes, okay." Kit went off and sorted something out, put us all in our bullet hits over our body. We drive in, and they press the button, and we start getting shot. And beautiful. Red dust comes off and blood. It looks fantastic. We hit the floor. Couldn't stop sneezing. He put red cayenne pepper. Our eyes and all these dead bodies laying on the floor going, "Achoo, achoo." So we went back to a full of that.
Yeah, another classic, really. And of course, that wasn't the only movie that you made with Lucasfilm. We've got you here as another, you know, famous small character. It always amazes me how we make these movies, and we've got these characters that were just things that got sculpted up, and then afterwards they come and write books and various things, and they all get these fancy names and you know, other stuff that turns them into something else. This of course is the Starlight Pit, right?
Yeah, Starlight Pit. I was playing the pilot, Badine, the skiff pilot, and I had a fight with Billy D. Williams, and we did the fight, took all the photos, and what was going to happen is there was going to be an explosion, and his stunt double, Julius Lafleur, Julius was going to be on a cable, and I was going to be head holds onto his body and fall off when the explosion goes. I fall off the side with him. He holds on because he's on the cable, as though he's holding on to the side of the skiff. I then fall 10, 12 feet into the sand, which was the slope, and then you roll down into the Starlight Pit. But what actually happened is that when the explosion went off, we both went off to do the explosion, go into space. I felt a jerk on his body, and the harness snapped, and a piece of cable, everything went in slow motion, as it does when your adrenaline is pumping away.
Right.
Everything went in motion, and I saw him reach up and grab the cable, and the end of the little bit that was supposed to be attached to his harness went through his hand and split his hand, and blood went everywhere. And then we started falling. And instead of me falling 10 feet and then rolling into the Sarlacc pit, we were falling 20 feet with him on top of me. So the first thing that hit the sand, which it was covered in foam and then covered in sand, the foam grabbed my foot and his weight twisting my body and broke my leg. And then I rolled into the Sarlacc pit. But as I was rolling in, I thought, oh my God, I've broken my leg. If I can put my leg up and I can see my toes are pointing up, it's only one bone. If they're facing the other way, it's two bones, and that's bad. And I got hold of Julius and I threw him up, threw my leg up, and my toes were up. And I thought, oh, thank goodness for that. That was only one bone.
And now this plaster cast is in the Rancho Obi-Wan Museum, I understand.
It is, yeah, in San Francisco.
Yeah,
I thought you like that because it's got all the signatures and Yoda on it. And
yeah, that's Steve Sansweet's museum. But you seem to make the most of it anyway.
I did enjoy it. Well, I mean, I did enjoy it, but the fact that I was able to stay around and we flew through the Grand Canyon in a crop duster. So that the 2-3 weeks when I had my leg in the plaster, I still had some good fun on the movie.
Yeah, and, I think Dickie Beer in the background there too.
Right? Yes, Dickie, and I think it's a guy who doubled for Chewbacca, and Carrie, of course.
Yeah,
but she was so good, so funny.
Yeah, well, Carrie was something else, you know. Yeah, you know, the stories that you could tell about Carrie would fill half a dozen books. I think she wrote half of them, you know.
Yeah.
Tell me about this. This is going back to your stunt motorcycle days, but or at least making a reliving of that. Tell me.
That was on the Escape to Athena on the island of Rhodes, in Rhodes town. And what I had to do was come down an alley, being chased by Elliot Gould, but in fact it was Mike Boyle and Dave Vickers. And I had to go up a ramp. They were loading some wood on the back of a donkey cart, and that represented a ramp. I could grab a ramp and jump over a donkey. But the noise of a 500 Yamaha going down an alleyway would have frightened any donkey.
Right.
So we went up into the fields and we shouting at donkeys. I was dressed as a German officer in the middle of a field shouting at donkeys because most of them ran away. And in one field we found one donkey that didn't move. We thought, you're the donkey, you're the deaf donkey. So we put a deaf donkey in there, and it didn't run when I jumped over the top of it. It was fine.
Exactly where do you go to find a deaf donkey?
Well, we had to go have a look around. It was during the lunchtime. Rick and I would go and have a look in the fields and just
yeah,
and we
think so. Of all the photographs that I found, you know, of you, I think this one's my favorite.
Yes, that was on a Channel 4 racing commercial.
You know, it suits you. You know, it shows you can do all those character parts as well, right?
Yes.
And this is one of is another movie that I wasn't so familiar with. Tell me about this. This is where you get run over by a tank.
Yes, yeah. It was a film called The Beast, or The Beast of War, as it went out sometimes. And it was about the story of a tank, a Russian tank that gets lost in Afghanistan, and the Taliban women and guys chase the tank and try. That's the beast. Is the tank. And they hound it and they track it across the desert. And apparently, whether it's true or not, is that the Russians sometimes would use that as a torture. They would put somebody under the front of the tracks and torture them. Whether that's a true story or not, I don't know. But in the story, that's what they did. This particular tank commander got to a Taliban guy and was going to run over the top of him. So now I got as a stunt coordinator, and I was dubbing for the Taliban actor to make it look as though the tank actually rolls over the top of the body. So what I did is I dug a hole in the sand, put a metal grid around it, about 2 feet wide, and I left enough room for my head to go back into it so that as the tank came towards me, I could grab the track itself and go back and be taken into the ground. And I knew that the tank driver had to go the right speed, and he had to go straight and go right over the top of me. I didn't want him stopping on top of me. He had to go right past me. A few years before, I'd done Dempsey and Makepeace, where I was playing a part of a villain, got shot, and had to fall under a train that runs over the top of me. So we set it all up, but the train driver couldn't drive over me. Every time he got to me, he slowed down and stopped. So I had to get a stunt guy in there with me and say, look, it's not your responsibility. There's plenty of room. It was easy to go underneath the train. So I had to convince him that it would be okay. It's not his responsibility. So now I've got this Israeli tank driver and a short, stubby cigar. And I said, look, this won't be your responsibility. I'm asking you to run over me. Don't feel bad about it. If anything goes wrong, it's not your fault. And he took his cigar out and he went, I don't give a damn. He said, I'll run over you any day you like. Yeah. So that's what I did. So they dropped me down into the hole. I had a dummy bottom part of my body, so that it just crushed it and went over the top. It looked a bit too horrific to keep it all in the film. But there's a bit
up on the way. I can't tell you. Some of my best work has ended up cut out because it was too horrific. And that can be very disappointing. When you feel like you've really achieved something.
Yeah.
Of course, one of the hardest things or the most scary things has to be full body burn, right? I mean, this is a really when you're talking about stunts, throwing yourself off a building's got to be hard, but setting yourself on fire, I don't know that I'd be able to do that.
Yeah, it was a tricky number. In fact, I was a stunt coordinator on License to Kill, and we was in Mexico City, Mexico, out in the desert area. It was up by the American border. So we were out there in the desert. It's 110, and now we've got to do a fire job. I had a guy standing by to do it, but the day before we were about to shoot it, he came to me and said, "Look, if I leave tomorrow, I can go on a movie, and it's a 2 months movie." I said, "Okay, leave your equipment here. I'll do it myself." So off he went, and I had 3 minutes of air on a little bottle that you put down on your waist, and you have a little tube coming up inside the mask, and you put it in your mouth and you breathe. You've got 3 minutes. So I figured that it would be enough, a minute and a half to put the costume on, to put the hood on and the mask, and then the wig on. Would take a minute and a half. By the time I walk onto the set, it's another half a minute, and then they've got to gel me up, and then I've got probably a minute to do the fire job, and they can put me out, and the 3 minutes will be up. So we get ready. I get out on there. I've got a minute and a half. They finally gel me up, and I've got a minute, and I'm just about breathing through the tube. And it says stand by and hold it. Something wrong with the camera. So now I'm going because I can't see a thing. I've got glasses on that give a tiny light through 2 pinholes. Finally, they said, "Okay, action," and up I went. But I couldn't see a thing. And then as I went, I was out of air. So I had to do the fall down, the stand up, fully on fire, float alongside the truck, and I put rocks on the floor so I could feel it with my feet, and then turn sideways and fall down. Then they come in and put me out. And I was gasping by the time they took the mask off. I could breathe.
Come on! Get down! Somebody get down! Get him on the ground! Roll! Get out here!
That was on daylight in Rome. We built a half-a-mile tunnel on the back lot of Rome, and we shot daylight in that tunnel.
So you set yourself on fire regularly, right?
No, that wasn't me. That was Tom Lucy on fire.
Okay, all right. But fire stunts. I remember when we did Life Force. One of those things that we blew up a London bus and had a couple of guys running around on fire. That was a big deal.
Yeah.
yeah.
Any fire job is dangerous.
Yeah. Fire, and this looks like you probably are you're falling a fair distance here. Tell me what's going on here.
Yeah, this was a film in Denmark called Tanta, the assassin, I think it is. But we were out there, and Ken Shepherd was the coordinator. I was doubling for a guy who got knocked down on the motorway. So we'd done the car knocked down on the motorway, and he's then taken to a hospital. And while he's in the hospital, I can't remember the story, but either he gets thrown over the balcony. And
how high up were you when you started this?
I was only up to about the third. But Dickie Beard, because Ken Shepherd said, "Look, I'll get you both jobs. If I do the narrow entry," he said, "Paul's a narrow entry expert. He can fall into the top of the bus. Dickie Beard is a high faller, and he fall into an airbag." So he came about 8 stories or so into the airbag, and then I did the lower fall into the top of the bus.
Right, and that's pretty impressive, because when you say into a narrow area, I mean, you are literally you just got about enough room to you got about 4 inches on each side by the looks of it.
Yeah, it was stupid, really, when I look back on it. But they told me it was going to be an ambulance, so I thought, well, an English ambulance is quite big, I could do it. I went up there from position and I'm waiting for the ambulance. And when the ambulance arrived, it was a Mercedes long wheelbase car that they'd taken the seats out and put sort of boxes in there and a mattress and put Fablon over the top. And so I then had to fall into that, and I didn't have a choice, really.
And I have to say that the edges don't look, they don't look that soft. If you, having the edges curling over like that really looks like an accident waiting to happen.
Yes, yeah. I was very lucky. Well, you think you're invincible when at that age, you think you're okay, and I was okay. I did it okay. It was. Whether it was skill or luck, I don't know, but I got away with it. It was a nice job to have done. I don't want to do it again.
Sometimes, I often say, and not relating it to stunts, one of the advantages of being younger is that you don't know enough to know that you shouldn't really be doing what you've just done, right? You would do things because you believe you can, when people with more experience would say, oh, that ain't going to work, but you played up, right? And there's been times when I've gone out and done certain things that I love. There was a time when, as a sailor, I liked the idea of doing one of the races single-handed. I was Commodore of a yacht club at the time, and we had a race to another island, 30 miles. And so I decided I was going to take my boat single-handed and do that. And at the other end, you're surrounded by coral heads and all kinds of things. So sailing a boat without an engine, single-handed around coral heads, was a challenge. But then we were there for 2 days, and the weather blew up, and we had a tropical wave on the way back, with waves that were like, if you talk about waves that are 10 feet, when you're down in the dip looking up at those waves coming, tie yourself onto the boat, because if you get swept over the side, there's nobody there to do anything, and it's going to take you 6 hours to or more to sail back through it. And I have to say, I feel proud that I kind of did that. But it's one of those things where you say, you know what, I'm not sure that I'm going to do that again.
Yeah, and it's great to do. You get great satisfaction out of it, but you don't want to do it again.
No, yeah, exactly. It's a good thing to look back on, not forward to. Yeah. So, it was, tell me what's happening here. I have to say, Roger looks very happy.
Yes. Well, it was 30 years of Bond. We did a show for 30 years of Bond, and all 4 of us doubled for Bond at one time, and double for Roger. So yes, it was George Leeds, myself, Martin Grace, and Dickie Graydon.
Right. Yeah. And these, I think these these last photos that I've got here are all Bond movies, right? How many Bond movies did you do?
I think 9. I always coordinating, but the rest is actor or stuntman.
Yeah, no, I mean, obviously, when there's 9 movies, you're going through that progression of moving up through the rank to, you know.
That was me doubling for Roger, and Wayne Michaels was doubling for one of the twins that has to come off. So we're doing 30 miles an hour, and we've got to fall off the train. So we had Dickie Graydon had already set up the boxes because he was going to do it, but for some reason he was going to do it with Martin, I think, when Martin had his accident. So the boxes were lined up, but they were like hundreds of yards long. But for me, I only needed boxes where I was going to fall in. So I said to Wayne Michaels, who was a young stunt guy at the time, I'm going to throw you off. The moment we hit the first box, become level with the first box, I'm going to throw you, and I'm going to leave my toes on a fraction longer so that I'm just slightly away from you. If we both go together, we're going to both hit the boxes together and hurt each other.
Yeah.
So I decided just to leave it slightly behind him, and but he had the tremendous courage of trusting me. I'm looking where the boxes are. We're going down towards the boxes. He's got his back to it. So when I go say now and start to push him, he can't see any boxes. He's coming off at 30 miles an hour, hoping that I've got it right.
Yeah.
He did it.
Courage. Yeah. You are doing another jump, right?
Yeah, that's in Key West on License to Kill. I was at the Hemingway house, where Hemingway, that was Hemingway's house. So I had to jump over the balcony. When it's like, it was originally called License Revoked because they take his license away at that point. But apparently, when the title went out into America when they were setting it up, and someone said, "What would it mean?"
Yeah.
So that changed to License to Kill.
Yeah, well, License to Kill is a classic Bond quote, and License Revoked, sounds like someone was stopped for speeding. So, we've got a few more clips for you here.
Hold on, you're dead!
I don't think we could have given you a better send off than that. I mean, that really kind of brings all of those things together. It must make you feel proud when you look at everything put together in a collage of clips.
Yeah. Yeah, that was just the Bond. There is another one of Raiders and all the other movies that I've done, and it's a bit longer than that. But yeah, it's great to put them all together. I'm writing my book, and each film or each photograph is a story, and it just I go into so much more detail of how we achieve those things, which I find hopefully will be interesting to the general fans. Is that how you achieve the stunt, not necessarily just being on fire or jumping down or falling. I find it more interesting to go into more detail of all those things. So I've got 268 pages and 85,000 words, and I'm just writing Return of the Jedi.
One of the things about writing is that you start out wondering, first of all, whether anybody's going to read it. But okay, well, we'll get past that one, because if you don't write it, then for sure they won't read it. And then as you get through, you start to wonder, gosh, I wonder how many pages is going to be in this thing. Is it going to be enough? And then as you get further on, you think, oh crikey, I better go back and tailor some of this down, because maybe people fall asleep reading it. It gets to be a real mixture. But we haven't talked at all about your musical career. How in the world did that get started?
Well, I was in LA. I was doing some casting for a Bond, and I was staying at the Beverly Hills Hotel, which I used to love to stay at. And I met a whole group of people that had been to an awards ceremony. And when we came back, I got to meet them, and there were a lot of musical people there, writers and lyricists and composers. And we got talking, and I met them over the next couple of days. And one of them, who was Carol Connors, who was in the Teddy Bears, and she'd been nominated she'd written the Rocky theme, and she was doing the Rescuers, and she did a lot of charity work. And she asked me, because I'd already written on Aliens, I'd written the stunt choir, Merry Christmas Mother, for my nephew's school, who wanted money to do a swimming pool. So I'd written this song called Merry Christmas Mother in November, and we got it printed up and recorded. So I had a little bit of experience of writing. And so we started writing together. A lot of charity stuff. I wrote a song for Jack Jones, the singer Jack Jones, and a few others. We did the 50 years anniversary of Singapore, called Singapore, My Lady. And then we wrote a musical. We wrote 22 songs for a musical, Don't Forget the Laughter. So we tried to push that on Broadway, and it's difficult. We never got it off the ground.
Yeah,
but in that, we met Sammy, and then we flew up to the mansion. We got introduced to Hugh Hefner. So anytime I was in town on a Sunday, I would go up there for Sunday lunch, and then you go in there and watch a movie. So yeah, I had some great parties up there as well, with sort of Easter parties and pajama parties.
Yeah.
So it was a great time. I really enjoyed it, and it was.
I read somewhere that you also sang with the Beatles.
Yes, that was when I was an extra. It was on Help. We were extras in a pub in Fulham, and we were supposed to be standing by the bar, and the Beatles come in, and Ringo's ring, a tiger swallowed Ringo's ring, I think, and it was escaped, and it was in the cellar of the pub. So they rush in and open up the cellar, and sure enough, there's this tiger, ferocious tiger. And Ringo says the only way we can calm it down is to sing it a lullaby, his favourite lullaby. So we all had to learn this song, and there I am singing with the Beatles. I thought they were singing a bit flat, but I didn't say anything at the time.
It's not the same thing in that situation. But Paul, it's been really great to have you on, and it's been a fun panel. We've seen something from so many different movies, with all these little clips that you've got. You I guess when everything else runs out, you're still a working stunt guy, but when everything else runs out, you can come and join us at conventions, doing autographs at Star Wars shows and various other things as well.
Yes, I enjoy those. If I get a chance, I do those. Yeah.
I'm hoping that COVID doesn't keep you confined for too long, and you get a chance to get back to work. And I'll look forward to seeing what you're doing in your next adventures.
Thank you. Yes, I'll let you know. It's been a pleasure, and good luck with your museum, and I hope you get the support that you need.
Yeah, well, we put this on for our supporters because they, I have very loyal people that come to get to know me personally in the museum when they're on holiday, and without them, we wouldn't be surviving right now. I mean, literally, because we're in an island that's tourist operated. We have to hope that things will sort themselves out. Although every day you listen to the news and it doesn't kind of encourage you too much. But I'm gonna talk to you again now that we've reconnected. Let's not be strangers.
Okay, it's been my pleasure.
Take care, Paul, and thank you so much for joining us.
So that was a chat that I did with Paul a few months ago. Of course, England is still heavily locked down. I'm hoping that this vaccine is going to help us all out, along the way. Thanks for watching. I hope we inspired you to strive for lives that are beyond normal, and believe in your impossible dreams. If I'd believed in what other people expected me to do, I'd have worked in a factory or in an office. And from my book, I always say, if you don't invest in your impossible dreams, then you're the one who guarantees they won't come true. So think outside the box and make the most of your lives. If you enjoyed the panel, you can re-watch this at any time, or you can tell your friends, to watch it. It'll be up for another couple of weeks. I'd ask you to please consider being a Follow Your Star Foundation supporter. These StarNet webcasts we started to thank our patrons who support us through this terrible economic crash via patreon.com. You can see the link, right here. We're in the Caribbean, and dependent on tourists, and everything has come to a halt. We're not getting more than 5% of what we would normally expect. So you can be a patron by donating as little as $5 a month. That entitles you to watch all of our live patron-only shows, as well as the recorded ones. And all income goes to keeping this movie museum and our foundation going, where we encourage everyone to follow their dreams and live extraordinary lives. So this is Nick Maley saying, I hope you have a great week. Maybe I'll see you again next Sunday. And, may the force expand your horizons and be with you always. Take care.